You turn your key in the ignition, expecting that familiar roar, but instead you are met with silence or a check engine light that just won't quit. If you have scanned your car and pulled up the code P0512, you are dealing with a malfunction in the starter request circuit. This sounds complicated, but let's break it down into plain English. Essentially, your car's brain, the Powertrain Control Module or PCM, is having a communication breakdown. When you turn your key to the start position, a signal travels from the ignition switch to the starter relay, and then to the starter itself to crank the engine. However, the PCM also needs to get a copy of that invitation. This code means the PCM never got the memo that you were trying to start the car, even if the car actually started. It is like sending a text that says delivered, but the recipient never got it. In this scenario, the starter might be working fine because it gets power directly from the battery and the signal from the ignition switch, but the computer is left in the dark. This can cause the check engine light to pop on, or in some cases, it might require you to turn the key multiple times before the starter actually engages. Now, how do we tackle this P0512 code without pulling our hair out? First, grab a reliable vehicle information source like All Data DIY to see the wiring diagram for your specific make and model. We need to find out if your car uses a starter relay. If it does, you are in luck because that is the easiest thing to check. Pop the hood and find the fuse box. A classic mechanics trick is to swap the starter relay with another identical relay in the box, like the one for the horn or the windshield wipers. If the car starts perfectly, and the code clears up after a few drives, you know the relay was the bad guy. Just replace it with a brand new one. If swapping relays doesn't work, you will need a digital volt odometer. You need to test if the relay is getting battery voltage when the key is turned on. If there is no power there, you are looking at blown fuses or bad wiring. Also, check the signal coming from the ignition switch. If the switch isn't sending the voltage when you turn the key, the switch itself might be toast. Remember to check your fuses while the circuit is loaded, meaning while someone is trying to crank the engine, because sometimes a fuse looks good until electricity tries to flow through it. If all the wiring checks out, you have power from the switch and ground from the PCM, but the code persists. You might be looking at a programming error or a fault in the PCM itself, but that is rare. Most of the time, it is just a bad relay or a worn-out ignition switch.